The Audible audiobook is narrated by Cynthia Erivo, and it is a delight.
Cash grab? Not cash grab. Ooh.
I'm gonna punch you in the face with like every crazy political thing I could possibly think of.
Welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast, guys. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz. And today is officially our fifth
and
final book deep dive. So not final episode, but final book deep dive in our bonus series all about Wicked and our books, political. We're going to be talking about the prequel, Elphie.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of you guys are kind of curious about this book, as we were. So I'm really excited to talk about it. It came out just in March, so not very long ago at all.
Yeah. And there's not much
exciting.
talk on the interwebs about it yet. So hopefully we can open up the conversation about it for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you guys have been sticking around for this bonus series, what have we been doing? We did an episode about our books political. Then we covered the original 4 books in the Wicked years. So Wicked, Son of a Witch, A Lion Among Men, and Out of Oz. So those are kind of the original 4 books that make up the Wicked universe. So now we're going back in time with Elphie.
Today is going to be a little bit different since Elphie was released, Liz did the math for us, 30 years after Wicked, the original.
That's crazy.
14 years. Yeah, that's crazy. 14 years after Out of Oz, which we covered last week. So not only will we be giving you our spoiler-free rating, so you're safe to hang out for a little bit. We'll warn you dramatically and with lots of enthusiasm when spoilers are coming. So do not fret if you're wanting to find out, is this worth a read? Like, is it filler? All of that we'll be discussing. And then, of course, we'll let you know spoilers and give you our usual favorite, least favorite parts, favorite quotes, talk a little bit about Easter eggs that might be inside this book, and referring to Elphie's life and more, and some full circle moments. So,
yeah,
that's what we'll be doing.
Well, yeah, it's like, I was curious, I think, and you guys might be too, just, what are the Easter eggs? Do we have any fill in the blank moments with this, full circle moments, lingering questions that are answered? And so I think that's going to be kind of like a main focus of this particular episode, just because I feel like, without giving anything away, it is a bit different than the original 4 books for sure. And what are we doing this for? We're doing it all in preparation of the movie coming out, Wicked for Good Part 2. Literally, we are filming this the week it comes out. It comes out on Friday. So excited to see it this weekend. My mom is coming to visit for Thanksgiving, and she's already like, are we seeing Wicked? My sister's texting me this morning, our local theater is putting tickets on sale today. So we have to make sure to pre-order them. So very exciting. Good to know. Yes, because then the last episode that we'll be doing for our bonus series will be ranking all the books and talking about how everything compares, the Broadway musical, both the movies, all those kinds of good things. But before we get into discussing Elphie, we just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Seriously, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your book to come hang out with us and hear a little bit more about these books, what our thoughts and opinions are, as well as share some others too. Please make sure to follow, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. We are almost at 1,000 over there. So exciting. Yay. And thank you guys so much for your support over this last year or so. We are just having such a blast. So much fun. We're also over on Instagram and TikTok at Besties in the Books podcast, and you get a little bit more sneak peeks into what's coming. That way you can do your homework and get to reading if you want to follow along and what our deep dives are going to be all about coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the things. All right.
All the things.
So should we just get into our spoiler-free star rating reviews of Elphie?
Yes.
A Wicked Child.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I rated Elphie 4 stars. I thought it was entertaining enough. I thought that it had some cool connections to the original series. I like Elphaba's character, and so I felt like she was easy to read about, but it wasn't a life-changing read for me by any stretch of the imagination. And again, just like some of the books in the original Wicked series, As far as entertainment value goes, I probably would have rated it a 3 if Gregory Maguire's writing wasn't so good. That's what bumps it up to a 4 for me. So yeah, so we're going to stick with a 4, but mainly because it's written really well, not necessarily because it sucked me in and just, really made me excited about the content. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as a spice rating, there's no spice in here. So this is like a very, very straightforward 0. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually a book that I feel like my 10-year-old could read easily.
yeah, like anyone could
as
read
opposed
it.
to any of the other ones, I would not say so.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little taste. 4 stars also because it was well written. So I'm giving it to him for that. Had a nice flow, but I'll admit nothing particularly necessary to read about happened. So
Yeah.
there you go. With that said, I do want to insert right here for those kind of listening and wondering if Elphie is worth picking up in a spoiler-free way, which is a little tricky, but let's keep it spoiler-free for now. Do you feel like this prequel is worth the read? Why or why not?
Is worth the read or is necessary?
Answer both. We got time.
If you love the Wicked universe, I'd say it's worth the read.
Okay.
Is it necessary? No.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you, read the original Wicked books and you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to read it or not. I'd say if you're on the fence about it, if you have extra time and decide, sure, then go for it. If not, you're not really missing out. Like it's not so profound or answering any questions that are so like any of the questions that we were left with in what is it called? I always want to say Return to Oz.
Out of Oz.
Out of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say Return to Oz because of that crazy Disney movie that I love so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's nothing in there that would where I'd be like, oh my God, you have to read this because it answers that question that we've all been wondering. It's not like that.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, if you read the series so far and you're wondering if you need to go back to the prequel, is it going to answer those questions? Don't read it for that. Read it because you just love Elphaba as a character and you just want to consume more. Because I dare say, and we'll go over this more in our ranking episode when that comes out to wrap everything up, I would read Wicked and then Elphie and then go into Son of a Witch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
Not
can see that.
because you have to by any means, but just because, it's her story. You're getting like a bit more character development from other characters. So if you're wanting to know more about Nessarose and Shell, even Nanny, you're going to get more built out character plots and everything within that book, but it's not necessary to read the other books, You don't have to do them in order, I don't think, for that.
No, I don't think so either.
But we'll talk more about that in ranking. But yeah, nothing profound. It's just if you love the Wicked franchise and you want to consume everything, go for it. Sure. It's simple. It's short, Yeah,
it's under 300 pages.
It's not heavy like the other books.
It's not.
So it's very different in tone, which we'll talk about. But I think it's also because of a point of view. It's a younger point of view. It's Elphie. As she's growing up. So there we go. I think that's the best way we can say all that.
Yeah, without giving any specific spoilers away.
Yeah.
I would agree on all accounts of that assessment. Yes.
Great. Yes. Here.
Okay, so, well, with that being said, should we get into spoilers, starting with the 5-sentence summary?
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Elphie. The 5-sentence summary by Gregory Maguire. Here we go. Yes, Gregory Maguire wrote this. I didn't. No, I'm just kidding. I did. Made it sound like it was by him. It's by me. I'm not quite so good. Okay. At the age of only 4, Elphie prevents the capture of her baby sister, Nessa, by essentially negotiating with a group of quadlings who traveled to Rush Margins to avenge Turtleheart's unceremonious murder by compelling a crocodile to sacrifice itself instead, a group of water buffalo to prevent Frex from interfering, and by hiding her sister in the reeds. Her parents think this was all a lucky coincidence.
one. Guys, you got another new musical instrument this week. You're getting the treasure trove with this series. Sorry.
I love that
the
it's
harmonica has gone MIA again.
I love that it's red and green. It's almost pink and green.
Yeah.
Almost.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
And it almost is hot air balloon shaped. So
there you go.
There you go. There goes a wizard.
Elphaba turns a stone into a plum by quote-unquote hexing it for Nessa, but soon discovers that a ghost monkey named Aporos may have actually been responsible for the magic, as he has been hanging around their encampment, stealing things and creating general mischief. After Melina gives birth to Shell and dies, Elphaba has her first vision of Aporos walking her mother to the afterlife.
Ooh. 2.
How long should you do this for?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it profound enough? I don't know.
The Thropps moved to, I think it was called Ovals. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
The town. Okay. Where Elphaba begins working at a fabric shop for a man who becomes somewhat of a mentor after she goes into his shop trying to find information about Turtleheart, and a rock and a bird swoop in, breaking his window. During this time, she finds out the boys of the town are all working in the vegetable pearl mines, even though it is often bad for their health, and much of the ecosystems necessary to do so are being systematically destroyed by the mining of rubies and the building of the yellow brick trade route.
3.
The Thropp children are out playing by a lake when Nessa falls in and is saved by a couple of bears. This is capital B. This is when Elphaba realizes that there are such things as sentient talking animals, so she meets them in the woods and has a brief conversation with them before she uses her singing to help them escape. She never sees them again, and Freck starts using Elphaba to sing and draw in more potential religious converts, so she quits the shop to help her dad more, and her boss tells her to go get an education.
4.
Just vibe,
slam
just
poetry,
vibing on your own. Yeah, exactly. Should I read sentence 5 in that style?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Blah, blah,
We don't need to do that. Elphaba starts going to school, but is kicked out because she steals a tea set from another student and one of her siblings breaks it. So she starts taking lessons from a somewhat royal quadling boy in secret. The family goes on their journey to finally find Turtleheart's tribe because Shell's bad behavior essentially gets them kicked out of town. And when they do find the quadling tribe, their oracle of a leader says that Elphaba needs to do more with her life. So she travels to Shiz and begins school there.
5. There we go.
Yeah. So
Good job.
Thank you.
Much easier for this book, huh?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I was actually writing this one because it's separated into parts, like most of his books are, but this one was only 4 parts. And so at the end of each part, I just wrote a sentence until I got to the end. Yeah, because I was like, okay, this actually breaks it down nicely for me, so I don't have to like sit there and try to figure this out.
That's nice. Yeah.
It was nice. Okay, so let's just start. Let's just start with the basics. So this pretty much, I mean, just to kind of like set the scene, if you haven't read this and you're thinking about it. I mean, it literally starts off when she's like a toddler and then goes all the way to when she's, I think, 16, right? So that's kind of like the span of time.
Yeah, going into Shiz, so whatever age that was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think, 16 or 17.
What is, I mean, as we found out in Out of Oz, what is time? What is age? I don't know.
I mean,
we're guessing.
They even mention that in the book. He says something like, years, we can't really count birthdays because years don't matter here. And I'm like, what is going on?
Like, why? Okay.
Why? Okay, so, yeah, but that's, I would say, the approximation of, like, the age range, if you're wondering kind of, like, what this covers.
Yeah.
So, what would you say your favorite part from Elphie was?
Honestly, I liked finding out how Elphie was afforded the opportunity to go to Shiz. Yeah. That was interesting. Because reading the books, I was like, how did they even manage this? Like, would she even go there? So, yeah. It was lovely.
Yeah, basically just making connections with the quadling royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because I feel like if you're just watching the movies or the play, you're kind of under the assumption that they are well off.
Yeah.
And in the books, it's like not the case because her dad, at this point in her life anyways, is just kind of like flying off the rails with his like traveling missionary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
My favorite part were the connections to the original story. And we'll talk more about like little Easter eggs here in a little bit. But I think that, you know, you guys know me, I do enjoy a prequel for that reason. So
Yeah.
I definitely like every time we notice something. Like, I'll just give an example here. When she's working in the fabric store, you know, and there's like a whole little paragraph talking about how she has to sweep the floors, but even just using a broom feels very unnatural to her. I was like, obviously he went out of his way to write that intentionally. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I like stuff like that because it's just kind of like fun to pick it apart and like notice it. So that was definitely my favorite part of this book, were those little,
Yeah.
we'll call them Assassin's Blade moments. You know, like,
Yeah.
not quite the same level in my opinion, but yeah, they were there. What was your least favorite part?
Oh, I just hated Shell, you know, being a terror, killing things, ruining stuff, and then she's getting the blame because she's green and a little odd. Hated that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but then at the same time, I think one of the things that I did appreciate about this book, because, you know, to go back to the original 4 books where one of the main things is kind of nature versus nurture, right? I think one of the points of this book is to show that Shell has always been a little questionable since the beginning. And I think we were really willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because looking back on it, we really didn't know anything about his personality.
Right.
And now that we know about his personality, it's kind of like, oh, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that completely
totally,
adds
totally.
up. Like, dude was killing animals for fun. Like, that's serial
Yeah.
killer behavior. You know what I mean?
Literally.
So there was that. And then it was also like this kind of gradual, like the same thing with Nessa, like kind of like this gradual, like growing into her personality where you could tell that due to her circumstances and also just, you know, how she was treated by Frex kind of turned into this like symbol of piety almost, you know?
Yeah, how Shell, like, in his nature is just a bad dude. And is just, because he's essentially, you know, like just a cis man, you know, or whatever, can just go through life and get what he wants, even though he's being terrible. Nessa, who's born differently, just like Elphaba was, you know, she started out looking up to her sister, being kind and gentle, but because of the way she's treated, actually falls into this other path too. So just interesting lens to see the difference, how different siblings can be, which we all know. We can all be raised in the same household, same parents, same circumstances, kind of and not, but like you literally can become totally different people.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Yeah. And
I
it
did
shows,
like that. Yeah.
and it shows too that it's like, you know, they do have some innate qualities as people, but then depending on, you know, their circumstances and their parenting or lack of parenting in this case, I'd say in a lot of ways, you know, kind of helps them grow into those personalities in like an extreme, you know?
You know, what different things they witness, what the age you are when you're witnessing them, all of those things are put through a lens for sure. And yeah, while I hated Shell and hearing all of his atrocities, I wouldn't take it out, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
We needed to know for sure. Yeah. So
it was important. I mean, it just, it explained a lot. I mean, even just finding out that his name is actually Shelter God. I was like, what an interesting like thing to add in there. You know what I mean?
no wonder why he had a god complex. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. And then he's just kind of left to his own devices, do whatever the heck he wants to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that says a lot right there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
My least favorite part, I just put that it was kind of mundane. Like I didn't feel like there was much of like, there wasn't suspense. There wasn't climax. There wasn't like, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like a steady, same tone the whole time.
This book is for the fans of the movie that wanted more from Elphaba after Wicked, I really feel.
Well,
Because I do
especially-
feel like some things I felt a little pandered to. So
I could see that. Also, though, what I was thinking about too is for a character that we've, I guess as a society become so obsessed with recently, she isn't even in any of the books past book 1, arguably.
yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's like she's actually in the grand scheme of all 4 books, not that much of a prominent character. And so I think that, Gregory Maguire was probably trying to give her more of a personality and more of a story, and then also humanize her more, because I feel like she was very kind of one-dimensional in Wicked.
Yeah. I did feel like her character was pretty different in these 2 books.
You mean Wicked versus Elphie?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think he was trying to give her more of a personality. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like Elphie's personality to Elphie is much more similar to a prequel of the movie Wicked or even the musical, as opposed to a prequel to the book. Like, you get a little bit, and of course people can get jaded, and she goes to Shiz and obviously sees these atrocities, so maybe that's what changes her so much, of course. But I don't know. That's what I felt like I was reading. I felt like I was reading the prequel to the movie.
Yeah, I could see that, because her character in Wicked is definitely very much more, she's closed off, she's analytical, she's unfeeling, she's unemotional.
A shy girl.
Yeah, and I feel like in Elphie, it's like I don't know, I don't want to use the term normal, but I feel like is almost kind of like a quote-unquote normal kid who's just a little bit ostracized. As opposed...
But then the singing, so then people like her because she sings. I didn't like the singing, I'll be honest. Because that felt like, it's not like we got singing in any of Wicked.
We did.
The book?
Yeah.
We did?
Yeah. It was important.
Well, I guess I blacked that out.
Remind me,
because it's been like 5 books ago.
Yeah, remember, she's in the bar and she's singing a song. I can't remember if Fiyero is there or not, but it's supposed to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow is the song that she's singing.
That's right.
And it's the one time that we realize that she has this great voice, but it's also talked about in Wicked that it was her voice that kind of sucked her into Frex's religious stuff because he used her. So that was mentioned in Wicked.
Fine. I did not remember that at all. So my bad. But I'll take it all back. No, but that's what I was just like. It was definitely like, but yeah, it makes sense because that's what he used her for. So, okay, fine. Yeah. Forget it.
I think that in your defense, I think that it was mentioned, but it wasn't like super duper important in Wicked. And I think it was harped upon a lot more in the prequel.
Yeah.
The singing. You know what I mean? So, hey, I don't know. Whatever that means. I feel like
that's part of kind of why, well, this would make sense for Wicked. But then it was weird, like, because you don't talk about singing when you're in musicals, you know? You don't talk about the fact that everybody can sing, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
it just is
but
what it is.
Okay, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
This is why we talk things out. It helps to refresh our memories too.
But yeah, so that was my least favorite part, was just that there was kind of the pacing was fine, but at the same time, it was because the pacing was all the same. It was like, there was no like, ooh, or like, moments. It was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about characters?
My fave was Elphie, obviously. I mean, hey. But I will say, because I feel like, well, we're supposed to like her, right?
Yeah.
I did actually really like getting more character development for Nessarose. Because this is the first book, movie, whatever, that I've actually liked her. You know? I just thought I loved the sister dynamic. It was very sister, you know, like the love and hate, you know, teasing, and even her with her magic and her hexing and stuff was so cute. And it was nice seeing Nessa start out less influenced by her father and everything. So, you know, obviously it's sad to see her change so much and also become jaded, but it was cute. I liked that.
Yeah. I would say that my favorite character, and he was like a minor character, was her boss at the fabric store. Just because of the fact that he really like saw her for who she was and encouraged her to expand herself. And I was like, that's really cool, because I feel like, you know, we all have people like that in our lives, you know, whether they be teachers or mentors or employers or whoever they might be, you know, family members, whatever. And some of those people definitely stand out to me in my brain, and I still think about those people, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's special. I feel like I liked that for sure.
Agreed. Very special.
Yeah. What about your least favorite character? Was it Shell?
Yeah. Evil incarnate. Yes. It's going to go to him.
Yeah.
He very much reminded me of that son, one of Firo's sons. What was that guy's name? Hated that guy.
Oh, the one who, well, I mean, they even had that similarity where they said that Shell put a cat in a well. So it was like the same as that kid. I can't remember his name either right now, but he put Lear in a well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's fascinating, because I'm sure that was also intentional. Yeah, he reminded me of that kid as well. Yeah, he was pretty terrible, and it just goes to show that, yeah, it's like exactly what you're saying. Elphaba's under an insane amount of scrutiny. Nessarose feels like she has to be perfect all the time for, you know, a lot of different reasons, but also because of the fact that she's a girl, she has a disability, right? There's all these like factors. And meanwhile, Shell is just like able to run
blameless.
around. Yeah, blameless.
Yeah, getting to do whatever he wants as a white cis male, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think that's an accident.
Well, and it's
literally
also,
gets to take over a throne.
just because he says he can.
Yeah. Just because he says he can. And meanwhile, the sisters have to fight for every little crumb
and
of
then
respect.
Die.
And ultimately die anyways.
Yeah.
Hiko gets to sit on his high bucket.
Yeah, he gets to go sit on his bucket, and then he gets to go wander off into the caves and live out his existence, you know, for doing what? I think that's the other thing is, like, as far as we know, and I mean, obviously there's a lot that we don't know about these people, right? It's like, as far as we know, Shell isn't remarkable. He doesn't have any powers. He's not particularly intelligent. He doesn't have any magic that we know of. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, he's arguably the least qualified out of all of the siblings to actually rule. And he ends up being the one in the end who, you know, quote unquote prevails, or whatever you want to say. So that says a lot right there.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
Okay, so when all is said and done, how did this particular book make you feel?
Underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like we've said a lot now, I think. Nothing profound, nothing too revealing. It's just a little extension if you're obsessed with the franchise. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
what about you?
I'd say underwhelmed is a good way to put it, too. Just kind of like, I did like that. You know, I think that when you watch the movies or the play, you're very much not even under the assumption, you know, that Elphaba has magic. It's very, very obvious. In the book, it's kind of ambiguous. It's like, what is magic? What is science? What is her own, you know, theorizing or whatever. And so I did like in this book that there were a few instances where it could go either way, right? Like, did she actually turn the rock into a plum, or was it, you know, did someone else do it? For example, did Shell do it? Right? It's like, we don't really know what happened. Did the monkey do it? Was the monkey real? Was he not real?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that we don't really have the answers to, so it can kind of leave it open to interpretation of whether or not Elphie was always capable of magic, or, you know, if it came on later in life, how strong was it? You know, all that kind of good stuff. Same thing for Nessarose. So I did like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, I would say fairly underwhelmed. There wasn't enough connection to where it got me, like, excited. You know, it didn't get the people going, and the people was me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that is how it made me feel. Also, I feel like, you know, one of the things that Gregory Maguire does well, which I think we both know he does well at this point, is his writing style is just, in my opinion, really unique and well done. And I think this book was cool because it's almost like the POV evolved as Elphie grew. Mm-hmm. And so I struggled with the POV a little bit in the beginning because it was almost like we were literally like looking at the world through like this toddler's eyes who doesn't necessarily understand what's going on and only sees a very small amount of the world. So I was kind of like, oh God, I hope the whole book isn't like this because this might be weird. But it does evolve in each section. So I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that way, it made me feel like, oh, that's kind of unique. I don't know that I've read another book like that, you know, like even reading Anne of Green Gables, like all 8 books where obviously she's in every single age group throughout. I didn't feel like there was that dramatic of like a change in tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I feel like that's an accomplishment to do in a book of 300 pages or less.
Yeah, you literally felt like you were growing up with her in the point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So was this book what you expected?
You know, I didn't have any expectations going into it. But I will say this isn't a Suzanne Collins
prequel
as I was expecting. You know, like what do we say about Suzanne Collins? She writes when she has something to say.
Yeah.
Every book is so just profound. And we do get a lot of obviously profound moments and political and philosophical lenses throughout the whole series. And I do think that the timing of that, he had stuff to say for sure, but not Elphie. I think that all changed with Elphie. So while I don't think I was expecting that, but just giving it thought afterwards is like, oh, I do think I was, after reading all those books, I was expecting more of that continue on. Yeah. But we're not, other than the lens of like siblings and like literally nature versus nurture, I didn't feel like everything, it was the same tone. But I also think that that was intentional. So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place, but
things are alluded. Well, I think it was intentional too. Things were alluded to, right? I think because we're seeing things from her point of view. She didn't even realize that there were such things as sentient talking animals until probably 3/4 of the way through the book, right? And so we couldn't really realistically be talking about that debate, right? Like what is, what constitutes someone having a soul or personhood or worthiness. It's like she hasn't grappled with these ideas because she didn't yet realize that that was a thing. So I think that's part of it. And then also, she's just now discovering, with the whole conversation she has with her boss about why aren't there any boys around? And he's like, oh, well, they're all working off in essentially like the mines, right? So it's like she hasn't really had to
children yearn for the mines. Sorry.
But it's like she hasn't yet grappled with these ideas of, colonialism, imperialism, class disparity and inequality and stuff. I think that's intentional, right? It's like she's finally like looking at the world as something that exists outside of herself, and kind of figuring out that not everything revolves around her, which I think is an experience everyone goes through at some point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why, like, I don't think it could have made sense for it to be as political because how,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But it still was a little bit jarring just coming off of like how like Gregory Maguire is like, I'm going to punch you in the face with like every crazy political thing I could possibly think of until you are so beaten down you can like barely take it. And then he's like, and now here's Elphie.
Yeah, here's a little treat. You feel better?
I know. You're just like, we're just like decrepit, like barely.
Especially reading all these back to back.
Yeah.
I was like, here's a little piece of pie. There you go. Thank you. Delicious. Yeah. So easy to digest. Great.
I think that's,
here's your Tums. Like, here's your Pepsi AC for that. Honestly, look at that symbolism right there.
That's hilarious. Take your Pepto pills after this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was a little treat.
But it was jarring.
Definitely jarring for you. Is that what you probably didn't expect that?
Yeah. I think that was part of it for sure.
A little bit of whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, was this book as political and philosophical as the original series?
No.
No. But as we were just saying, I mean, you're reading through the lens of younger eyes and kind of seeing, like, it's fascinating, just as you just talked about, the little bits of exposure to political and ethical issues in the world, little bits, noticing, hearing the conversations, getting them. It's like literally how we grow up, right? You're only getting like a little bit.
Yeah.
You're getting censored in a way, right? Because you don't want to freak out when you're 4 years old. So, and handle more than you can handle, or notice, or care, you know, because you're very self-centered, and that's what you have to be to survive.
Yeah.
So you're growing with her and you're learning that. So that was an interesting take. So maybe not as political and philosophical, but we have the building blocks.
Yeah.
Being so.
Well, and I think a major theme of this book too was, you know, what is education? Who has access to it? How can it change people, society, the world, etc.? So, yeah, I feel like that was kind of a big thing too, because, you know, she doesn't even realize, Elphaba has no context to realize like what kind of potential she could have, right? It's like she's like realizing through these other people kind of acting as mirrors to her. You know what I mean? Like, who are telling her, like, no, like, you need to go to school. And she's like, really? I don't know. And they're like, yeah, just do it. And then she, you know, does really well in school. And they're like, well, you should probably try to go to college. And she's like, I don't know. And they're like, no, I think you should. So I feel like definitely education was a big piece of.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't think about it until this moment because, you know, we talk about in our real lives, so we're getting that parallel again. You're just a small town girl, you know? You're living in Elphie's world. So you're in this small town with the quadlings or wherever they're bopping around to, all these small places. And then you go to college away and your world is expanded beyond your small scope that you originally had and what you learn in that. So if we continue on straight through Wicked, we would see that development milestone that people go through when they go away to college, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And even almost becoming more liberal than the teachers themselves, right? Because she's then finding out the injustices that are going on with animals and her professors and everything that's going on with the world.
Yeah.
And you have the different people that are just like, status quo, go with it, shut up. And then you have people that want to liberate the less fortunate. So, yeah.
It almost, now that I'm talking to you about this, I'm like, well, now I kind of want to know what Glinda was doing around this time. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of makes me wonder, but then I'm at the same time, I'm like, I don't know that I need to know, but I kind of want to know. Now I want to know.
Yeah. If she was a more profound character, if we got more with her throughout the series, then yeah. But I mean, they kind of talk about a little bit, like she doesn't really have her first thought until Elphie tells her to think. So
a first thought. It's just lights on, but no one's home until that.
I mean, that's basically how she describes herself. She's like, oh, I read the words, but I don't think about them. Like those just reading. Yeah. It's like those people that don't imagine, it can't see in their head what's going on. It trips me out, man. Yeah. I read the words. Yeah.
So, did you find out anything new and interesting about Elphie's character that you want to mention here? Like that would make this book kind of like stand out more. Like, oh, cool.
I just liked, seeing her attachment to animals starting, the way she could communicate with them differently, but not even be fully aware of it. Those kind of little things. Just building out her personality overall. Yeah. What about you?
I feel like all of mine, just to go into the next kind of thing we wanted to talk about, all of mine were kind of like just fun, like Easter eggs or connections for later on down the line. Did you write any Easter eggs down that you want to share? We could kind of like bounce back and forth, or do you want me to just do
the bears in the woods, that like to read.
Sure. Yeah. That like to read.
That was so
cute.
sad, though.
I know,
I'm like, freaking Shell, I know you killed them, you asshole.
Probably. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite one. Okay, so just to talk about something that I learned about Elphaba that, like, I did enjoy. She keeps the crocodile remains until her death in her room at Kiyomoko. I was like, that is cool. I like that. especially because it's like it washes up completely preserved like 10 years later, and then she has it all. Yeah, it's like that is pretty cool. It's like that's neat. So I did like that. I also mentioned the broom. The monkey conversation that she has with the ghost monkey.
Yeah.
The one who we never really know is real or not, talking about how he wants wings. I thought that was really cool. And then how, they have that whole celebration in that town where everyone wears the fabric wings. So she spends all this time in the fabric store cutting out special wings. I was like,
that helped because I'm just like, she's a little bit Dr. Frankenstein and Wicked, like,
I mean, she was.
I mean, we referred to her as human centipede doctor, right? So like, kind of weird, but okay. Now we have some context to that. So less creepy,
but still kind of creepy.
But I mean, still creepy, but
I liked her crystal ball.
Yes, the crystal ball reference. That the guy was like, "You're gonna have one day of your own. Not this one, but you'll have one."
I know, that was cool. I also liked the mention of the idol of the lady with a fishtail in place of legs. I was like, okay, so we're having some full circle moments. So I feel like those were the things, maybe not necessarily like they weren't characteristics of Elphaba, but they were like, you can see how. I mean, if you want to argue how her destiny was kind of like the building blocks of her destiny were already getting like kind of set up from this very early age, or if you don't really want to believe in that kind of fatalistic destiny perspective, you could also say like, okay, well, maybe this just influenced her behaviors and decision making later in life. Either way, it's pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you have any other ones you wanted to share? Is that it?
Nope. That's it.
Okay. All right. So I think we've already kind of answered it. Is this book necessary? Do you think it's a positive or negative contribution to the canon and to the Wicked, I don't know, fandom in general, I guess?
Positive, but not necessary. So, hey. Yeah. Just like we talked about at the beginning. Yeah.
I agree. I don't think it's a negative contribution. I think it's good. I think, it could be, like you said, something that the kids could read, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that a younger audience can read, whereas with the Wicked Years books, that's like we even talked about it. That's like a high school, college read. That's not an elementary school, middle school read. So maybe that's who this is for, the little kids who are like, I want to know more about Elphie.
Yeah, I haven't watched any interviews from him about this book or read anything. There's not a lot of reviews out there, which we'll get to in a second. So I don't know if that was the goal or not. I mean, I just think it's interesting to be able to see her growth. So maybe so. Maybe a gentle way to ease them into maybe starting with Elphie, for the younger audience that wants to get a little bit of it. And then later on go into the other books because it gets so heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say positive contribution, not necessarily a completely necessary part of the story, as you said.
You're not missing out if you're not going to read it. If you've listened to this so far, and you're like, I'm good, you're not missing anything.
Okay, so would you read, here's the $1 million question, would you read any more Wicked books?
Oh, not for a while.
Yeah.
We're battered, we're bruised, the Pepsid AC helped, but I need a break. I would have needed a break 3 books ago, to be honest. It was hard reading these all back to back. Truly.
It was heavy, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess because if we would have read these in real time, this would have spanned we wouldn't have been able to, 30 years, that's too long. I guess what I mean is, let's say in 5 years, another prequel comes out, for instance. Would you read that?
I can sleep at night with what I know so far. I don't need to know more. But if it came out, I don't know. I can't say never. Never say never to adding to TBR. If I would hope that he takes a Suzanne Collins, page out of Suzanne Collins' book and give us something give us something to talk about. I'm very musical today. But, like have something that needs to be said in a way that isn't redundant on what's already been said. That's what I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want another repetitive book. It would need to add to the story, either like some kind of middle book, or if you wanted to continue on past Out of Oz to find out what goes on. But like I can sleep at night knowing that place sucks and I don't ever want to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think at this point what would compel me is if we do find out that Elphaba was brought back by that spell that, at the end. That would interest me.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to give that to us.
I don't think so either.
I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of can't at this point, but if for some reason that happened, if he writes fan fiction about himself.
If fanfic would, for sure. Because I just think that is so intentional for him to not have that happen. Yeah. As much as we would want it.
Yeah. But that would fascinate me.
Or Galinda's story, and to find out she was working behind the scenes and it was all a facade, because we do want more Glinda. So sue us. We do. Don't sue us. Yeah. But we do. I was talking about with my daughter because she wants to know some of the stuff that's going on in the books, because by the time she reads it's going to be a long time from now. And I'm just like, she's like, oh, but then what about Glinda? I'm like, she's just really not in it that much. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. What was really going on behind the scenes with Glinda? Maybe nothing. But maybe
nothing. But I would love to find out that she was trying stuff, and maybe she got usurped. Well, she didn't get. She stepped down, but maybe she was pressured and usurped to take over. Maybe she was trying. Maybe she married that guy to get up there.
Yeah.
Because she trying to use her influence behind the scenes, but she had to keep up the facade so much that even herself at sometimes would believe the facade.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like those would be, more of Glinda's backstory. Was Elphaba reincarnated at the end? If so, what happens? And I think the other thing would be, as much as we hate Shell, I would love a book about Shell specifically to see. It would be like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but for Wicked. You know what I mean? Which could be really good if done right. So I feel like that would be interesting.
I mean, he's acting out, because even though he is a white cis male that could do whatever he wants, he is overshadowed in a way from his sisters who need more than him. So he's going to be acting out. There's something psychological there for sure, that it's attention seeking, or even he sees what he can get away with because the eyes aren't really on him. He could just skirt by. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. So you're right. Yeah.
I would read that. I'm a sucker for a good villain origin story, especially because I feel like in Out of Oz, he's technically the villain, but we're not really seeing how he has direct responsibility for a lot of the atrocities that are happening, because he's kind of like this weird behind the scenes. And so
he's a straw man.
But I would like to know, how much of a straw man was he really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe a book about the wizard.
I like how we're basically we'll actually read a book about anything.
I guess what we mean to say, as long as it's not the same, situation that was going on with all these. I liked the way Elphie was, and the way Wicked was, even Son of a Witch, But Out of Oz just really threw us through a loop here. I think so. Give us some direction and some backstory to build up and more focus on certain characters, and I think we're all for that.
Yeah. So would it go to the top of my TBR when it comes out? Probably not. Honestly. Even if it was 5 years from now, I'd be like, I'll get to it when I get to it. But I'm not in any crazy rush to read it. It'll be what it is. It's not with a Hunger Games book where it comes out and I'm reading it the day it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm reading it as fast as my eyes can possibly see or my ears could possibly hear,
Yeah.
It's not that level. So, but obviously we wouldn't be against apparently learning more about a lot of the side characters.
Yeah, apparently. I didn't know it until you said it. Yeah. Well, actually. Yeah.
What about any notable quotes from good old Elphie?
I just have a couple here.
Okay.
You don't need your father's permission to notice what you notice. There's liberty enough in owning your own eyes, girl. Loved that.
Yeah. Elphie says, is that all it takes to make people likable? That they haven't picked up a stone and chucked it? Bare mins, guys.
Maybe it doesn't matter how we're made in the end. It only matters who we are.
I wrote that one down, too.
Yeah, the ever-present question in this series. Who am I? Who are we?
Where is the dotted line between soul, capital S, and soul, lowercase s? And is that even a question? That's when she first kind of starts grappling with the animal debate.
Yeah. That's all I wrote down. You want any more for us?
I have one special one that I did want to share that I did actually screenshot and send to my sister because I loved it so much.
Oh.
It says, sisters are not flowers, and parents can never, from the first day, give the same water and light and soil to one girl that they gave to her sister. Sisters grow, if they grow together at all, in adjacent sorrow. So sometimes Nessa screams and Elphie screams just because. They have no words for their spontaneous outburst. It is a mutual sort of melasmic yodel, saying more or less, we're fucked. They look at each other and shake their heads, scarcely believing the untoward luck of having been born adjacent to that and like this. But the screaming can turn into screaming with laughter a moment later. This is called spiritual health, and no one has ever known where it comes from or why.
Sounds like my house with my two girls.
Exactly.
And you're probably,
Yeah. That's why I loved it so much, because I feel like for a man to write something that encapsulates sisterhood so well, I was like, wow, I love that. And then what I thought was funny too was the first part of that quote is actually the pull quote that's on the back of the book. I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So I did send that to her because I loved it. It was my favorite one, I think. I just looked up the averages on Goodreads. So right now, as of today, there's only 4,390 ratings, which is it came out in March, so that's kind of a while to only have 4,000 ratings. That's kind of low, I feel.
And off the tails of Wicked.
Right. Only a few months. It gets an average of a 3.19. So we can see
3.19.
that.
That might be the lowest, other than Cowardly Lion. That's not what it's called. A Lion Among Men.
Yeah.
That one was pretty low too. It was right around there.
What about the audiobook? Because I know that we mentioned it on our social media, but just so you guys know, the Audible audiobook is narrated by Cynthia Erivo, and it is a delight.
Ooh.
It was so good.
It made me like the book more.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I don't know, because guess what? I got a free download on Libby. It was available for Elphie.
Nice.
And I was like, buckled up, buttercup. Let's give this a listen. It's Cynthia. I will listen to it because it's her. And a man's voice came on.
Jump scare.
Yeah, it was. Like, I luckily had a bunch of credits still with Audible, so I went and used a credit. I was like, hell no. I would have I'd pay the $15 if I had to, because Cynthia's voice is beautiful, majestic, and it literally is so fitting for Elphaba. Why would you put a man's voice, though?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
It would be weird. So sorry, no hard feelings, Eduardo Ballerini, but no. I didn't listen to you enough to have an opinion other than, you're not Cynthia. You didn't even go here. So the rating was 4.4 stars for him, with the average rating being a 4.1 on Audible. And then Cynthia's narration I looked into was a 4.7, obviously, compared to the 4.4. So there you go. And then I just highlighted this 1-star review from Cynthia's Audible. So 1 star, this book was disappointing. The best thing about this book was Cynthia Erivo's reading it to me like a bedtime story every night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So redeeming quality, bumped it up a star for her.
Yeah. I mean, really. And I mean, honestly, there was a lot of, because the majority of this book takes place in Quadling country. And so there's a lot of different name pronunciations and place pronunciations. And I feel like it just flowed. Like,
yes,
none of it sounded clunky or awkward. And it just, like, she did a great job. So as if she wouldn't, but, she did a great job.
I mean, and what is it? Like, if 8 hours at one time speed,
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to read, if you're thinking about reading Elphie and you're just wanting to go through it, it's quick, it's short, 8 hours at one speed. Get the one that Cynthia Erivo narrates and you'll be happy. And it's nice. It's a nice, easy, fun time.
For sure.
And there is an announcement that Cynthia is actually narrating Wicked. And then that will be released on February 10th on Audible. And maybe everywhere you get audiobooks. I don't know. But I found that out while looking up these reviews. So she is in the process of narrating that. So that would be incredible as well.
For sure.
So if you've watched all of our movies or whatever these are called, listened to all of our podcasts, watched all of our videos, trying to decide if this Wicked series is for you and you want to read an audiobook, hey, Cynthia's coming out February 10th. Hey. Definitely recommend that.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Do you have any bonus questions for me on the fly?
No.
Yeah.
I think that's everything. Oh, cash grab, not cash grab. Ooh.
I'm going to say not a cash grab necessarily, but a way for kids to enjoy an expanded Wicked universe in a way that they weren't able to before.
Yeah.
So maybe that makes it a cash grab, but at the end of the day, I think the positive might outweigh the negative if more kids are able to get excited about Wicked and go pick this book up and read it. Because, I mean, really, honestly, like, that just wasn't a possibility before. I mean, a kid could go try to read Wicked, but good luck. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you did, you probably wouldn't understand it or you'd be bored with it in 5 minutes and move on, you know? So I feel like, so maybe call that a cash grab, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I think that contributes enough value to make it worth it. What do you think?
I would say that plus, well, here's my thing. If Wicked wasn't turned into a movie, would he have written this book? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So I think it's a double-edged question right there. Because, I mean, who are we to judge whether something feels like a cash grab or not, you know? But I think after reading it and seeing the tone and seeing her grow up with Elphie, exactly that. I think this is better for a younger audience. To get introduced into the world. For the parents like me who have a daughter chomping at the bit, please let me read it. And I'm like, but really no. And this would satisfy that expansion of the universe without having anything too triggering or, you know, like slaughter. There is a little bit, but it's within that age group, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe a cash grab, but like ultimately I think a positive like addition for that reason, you know?
Yeah.
So it could go either way depending on your interpretation, but that's what I think.
Strange that they didn't hype it up more.
Yeah.
So that's why it also makes me want to say not a cash grab, because I literally didn't know about it. I mean, my husband and daughters picked out the whole book series for me last Christmas. I guess Elphie wasn't out yet. Yeah. But you would think they would have like coming soon, pre-order, you know? Like and I didn't see it until I was just randomly walking, you know, Barnes and Nobles as we do. And I was like, oh, what's this? You know?
Yeah.
There was no hype around it. I think there should have been more hype, I think. If they packaged it as something, maybe even for, you know, early high schoolers, you know? Something like that. Or like, the marketing was non-existent.
Yeah.
Maybe they just felt like if we throw it on the bookshelves, people will get it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a disservice in a way. For those parents that were saying, what can they have instead of Wicked?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because I think it just, it adds value to the fandom. You know, it's like, because it's like, you know, they're going to capitalize. There's going to be so many cash grabs for Wicked, right? It's like we've seen it everywhere. There's everything from dolls to makeup to cereal to you know what I mean?
Stanley. Yeah.
It's like they're going to make as much money off of this as they can. So like, why not actually include a younger age group book that actually brings true value to the fandom? You know what I mean? Yeah,
but that is a separate entity. Those are separate rights at this point, so that's separate money backing it. But it is weird.
Yeah, I mean,
You know
I
what I'm
just
saying?
found
Like, the
it, like,
publishing houses is very different than Universal,
for
you
sure,
know?
for sure.
But you would think they would try to ride that somehow, talk to have some negotiations. I don't know, something. Give us something.
Yeah, I mean, I just found it on the shelf because I don't know if you guys can see, but because I tabbed it. But yeah, it's got like a cool like stenciled edge, which I actually really liked, and I just found this like on the shelf at Target, like randomly.
Yeah. This would actually be a cute, you know, interesting mini series that they could make for younger audiences, you know, that want more from Wicked.
I could
And
see
more
that
Elphaba.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways,
enough of us speculating of all the Wicked things they should make.
I know now that we talked about books and advertisements and movies, miniseries.
I did find just a little fun fact about Elphie. So specifically the prequel, which I did notice already just because we have the paper copy of the book. But Gregory Maguire actually dedicated this book to Idina Menzel, Cynthia Erivo. Did he only dedicate it to them, or did he also dedicate it to Argalindas as well? I can't remember.
Sounds like just the Elfies.
Let me see. Probably just the Elfies, but let me double check. But yeah, I thought that was really sweet for Idina Menzel and Cynthia Erivo for all the Elphabas past and to come. And so I did really love that because, you know, I feel like we've all watched a lot of our favorite book series get turned into movie and TV adaptations, and the amount of personality and talent that both Idina Menzel and Cynthia Erivo bring to Elphaba's characters just so insanely amazing.
Yeah.
That it's like, I just love that he dedicated this book to them. So that was a fun fact.
Oh,
Yeah, sweet. It's sweet. I can't wait to watch it. Oh, I think we're going to go on Saturday night. I cannot wait. I'm freaking out.
When this is posted, you have already have seen it, and I'd be seeing it this evening. It's going up on a Friday, the Friday after. So, guys, did you see it yet? Get your homework done. Go see it.
Can't
Let us
wait.
know how you like it.
I already told my husband, I'm like, I need to bring one of those little like travel pack of tissues because I know it's going to take me out. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Well, do you have any last words to say? I mean, this is crazy. Like, this has been a journey. I cannot believe like all of the Wicked books are done
Yeah.
so far,
Yep.
obviously.
So ranking and wrap up, and where we talk about the movies and everything, and rank and everything, all of it, will be next week, next Friday. So make sure you are subscribed and following everywhere you like to listen to your podcast, including YouTube and then Instagram and TikTok. We're Besties in the Books podcast everywhere. So come hang out, send us your thoughts, opinions, negative, positive, all that. Maybe we can read some off in the next episode.
Yeah. We can rant and rave about the movie together.
Yeah, totally. All right, you guys, we'll see you next Tuesday and next
Friday.
Friday. Bye.
Bye.